It seems that the brightly burning, but burning at both ends candle that is Grummz and his online career is finally getting down to the last few inches of wax. Because lately, there's been a lot more negative attention on the guy. For a while, he was able to grift nearly unchallenged. He would just say the most insane accusatory thing about a game that was popular coming out, maybe even cite 4chan rumors from completely anonymous accounts claiming to be insiders as the only evidence that they have to support why they're making the post. He'd farm a shitload of money off of it, and there was very little pushback considering, especially at the time when he started blowing up, this whole narrative about fighting wokeness in gaming was at its peak at the moment. So now that he's starting to fall off, pretty heavy in fact, I think now is a really good time for us to dive deep into the history of this dude. To see from his rise, from what he claims to be his credibility-lending career, to his rise as an anti-woke grifter on Elon's Twitter, to his beginning fall that we've experienced in the last couple days. Anyway, with all that said, I've got a video here that's made by a friend of the channel named Moment of Sanity. Makes good videos. They actually made some really good stuff during the saga with Shadow Raven Studios, and we covered a few of their videos there because they were pretty good coverage of the entire situation. And I was actually sent by Moment of Sanity this video called Grummz, a rabbit hole of fraud. Highly recommend you go check out the original video. It'll be linked down below in the description. If Ethan remembers. If he doesn't, comment on the video. Ethan, add the link, pin the link, and he'll do it. Also, just comment anyway, because it helps the algorithm boost my content. So that's always nice. Anyway, Grummz. Real piece of shit. Real pathetic guy, too. And I have to say, maybe it's just me, but there's something about his, like, cutesy little, like, :3 avatar that he has, the little drawn image he uses as his profile picture, and the fact that it's like him trying to cutesify his very like grody and like neckbeard basement dwellery itself, it disturbs me. It's really upsetting to me. I don't like it, you know? There's just something about it that like makes ants crawl up my spine. That's the best way to describe the feeling, you know? Anyway, let's check this out. Grummz, a rabbit hole of fraud. Let's check it out. Red Dead Redemption.
How's it going, everybody?
Funny ass game.
Here. Despite the fact that very recently I made an entire video talking about how we are genuinely in a gaming golden age, mainly due to the fact that, like, less mainstream studios like FromSoft and indie, publishers and whatnot are pretty much just kind of like on the rise. Surprisingly enough, well, not every single indie project you should be throwing your money at. Oddly enough, there are in fact quite a few different scams. I mean, hell, if you were a follower of Critical, you probably know.
Moment of Sanity has been going to the Xander Hall School of Video Game Takes. It's based. I actually said this recently, and I feel like I'm one of the few people prominently arguing this position. The argument that gaming is in like a really bad place right now or has fallen is complete bullshit, and people who say they believe it are just jumping on a bandwagon. On an objective level, in terms of variety and already existing available library, gaming is in a better place now than it has ever been. It is a more profitable industry than it has ever been. The amount of options and availability for games is more than it has ever been. There is more opportunity to start making games and create your own, career as a game developer in the indie sphere than there has ever been. Hell, even AAA companies are requiring more work because there's constantly new AAA studios popping up constantly, or they're being acquired, and then they have to expand and hire new people. So the size of the gaming industry is on every level better than it has ever been. Every issue with the gaming industry that's happening now was worse back in the day. So yeah, it's a good take. Gaming's actually in a pretty damn good place.
Know that there are quite a few indie game scams that exist on
Have a good one,
Kickstarter.
Mr. Sanity.
However, today we're talking about a very unique one. We're talking about a man who apparently not only is hosting a crowdfunding scam, but has also made a name for himself within this whole entire anti-woke slash.
So is this going to be M8er, that game? I think it's called M8er, EM8R, or EM8ER maybe, and it's like a non-existent space game that I think Grummz is selling like literally up to $1,000 real money purchase things of like certain pre-order packs to support the game. It's genuinely insane, like a massive scam.
Culture war sphere. A man that simply goes by the name of Grummz. But who is Grummz? Who is this man that we're talking about today? Well, let's actually strap in and talk about the man himself before we actually get into, well, what he's currently known for nowadays. Because oddly enough, he has quite the resume. So Marcus Kern, also known as Grummz, is a very interesting specimen, to put it very simply. In fact, he, surprisingly enough, unlike a lot of the other people who are part of this weird culture war sphere, he actually does in fact have a resume when it actually comes to, well, game development, oddly enough. He actually used to work for Blizzard at some point on games like World of Warcraft.
Let's be clear, though. Grummz, according to the people who worked at Blizzard when he did, was one of the first people to start recommending changes that would later be considered the worst that Blizzard ever made for WoW. Most of them centered around in-game real money purchases. Grummz was one of the first people at Blizzard to start recommending that you put a shop in the game where you spend real money on cosmetics and gold and stuff like that. And he was also apparently extremely toxic and shitty, and no one whatsoever likes him from Blizzard. He has no connection still from Blizzard, not even like old coworkers or anything. None of them like him.
Before he either left on his own or got fired. Honestly, the details on that are a little bit muddied and I can't really find out anything, but all I know is that some of his coworkers don't exactly have the best lasting impression of him, considering the fact that if you try to look up anything about him, you'll see posts of like people having almost like horror stories about the man from working with him in Blizzard. And that's saying something considering the fact that they, well, worked at Blizzard, so. But surprisingly enough, his current game that he has supposedly been working on for the past 6 or 8 years isn't actually his first ever project. In fact, he actually used to have another project by the name of Firefall, God knows how long ago, in which that was yet another crowdfunded project, in which for some unknown reason, despite collecting a decent amount of money for Firefall, instead of spend the money on advertising that.
Grummz is quite literally a disgraced game developer who was a member of a large company. That was the biggest thing he ever did, his biggest achievement. Got kicked out, most likely fired, proceeded to use what platform he had to start making early access scams, basically like putting a game, not even putting the game in early access, just crowdfunding money for a game that never ends up existing, farming off of that shit, and then proceeding to get into the anti-woke gaming grift on Twitter, where there was an easy path to making a ton of money per tweet, because that's, Twitter is now monetizable. And he's basically just taken every opportunity, no matter how shameless and obvious, to make money as possible from the gaming community, even if it means fucking people over. And he's somehow, up until now, managed to remain relatively uncalled out by the broader internet space.
That made sense. He instead decided to spend it on a bus, which I can guarantee you a grand total of 5 people actually gave a shit about. For some unknown reason, Grummz apparently thinks that he's a master of marketing because of it, just because it's the most well-known thing that he's ever created, well, next to this recent scam of his. But the funny thing is that, once again, that isn't actually his only game. In fact, he is currently working on one right now as we speak. Or at least was supposed to be working on one for the past, 6 or 8 years. A game that went by the name of Ember, spelled like this for some reason, that mainly tries to market itself off of cheap sex appeal now, which honestly, I wouldn't have that much of a problem on its own. Honestly, despite what you may hear about me making fun.
Grumm's whole thing is that he's a gooner. Like, his entire branding is that he's fighting for gamers' right to goon.
People for being gooners or anything along those lines. I'm not exactly like a prude myself or anything along those lines. It's just that Well, I understand that there's a time and place for fucking everything, and sometimes these people just fucking don't. But here's the thing about Ember, okay? You would think that a game like Ember would have, with 6 to 8 years of development being behind it, almost $500,000+, basically $500,000 in the bank when it comes to crowdfunding for this game, you would think that over the past 6 to 8 years, there would be a lot more progress being done on this game. What if I told you that everything that I just said right there was nothing but subtle foreshadowing to the fact that this game barely even exists? Don't believe me? Well, here's some leaked gameplay footage of this game.
No, that's not real. That's best case scenario, that's a vertical slice. Oh. There you go. Those few seconds there were a vertical slice until you walk in the water and you see it's not real. So it exists in a capacity where you can post clips on Twitter.
6 to 8 years of development for something that's barely better than a technical demonstration. That is what Mark has apparently been working on, and this is all he has to show for it. And the thing is that the progress on this game was basically almost entirely unknown to everybody who was backing this game, oddly enough. Only a few people who were given, like, codes or whatever, were actually given access to this game to actually know just how lackluster it was, and surprisingly enough, one of them was actually just so sick and tired of just how little work was actually being done onto it, that, of course, it ended up getting leaked. So that's how we actually know the current progress of this game as of right now.
It really goes to show how manipulatable gamers are when you utilize their anger over culture war shit to actually motivate them to fight against their best interests. Like, have you noticed how much attention that probably should be going to the fact that Grummz is a scammer? Like, now, granted, while I really like the state of the gaming sphere at the moment, like, gaming's in a pretty good place, one problem that current gaming has that is notably new is the amount of scams. Like, just indie projects promise to be a really cool thing, and then you find out it's a scam only after you buy it, right? The Day Before is a great example, right? It feels like the gaming community overwhelmingly agrees and recognizes that not only should you not support scam projects in the gaming industry, but you should call it out and actively fight against it to dissuade anyone else from attempting the same thing and to help warn people from falling into the scam. But when someone like Grummz, who is really no different than the devs for The Day Before, utilizes gamers' anger over not being able to goon and over some culture war bullshit, they completely turn a blind eye to the fact that he's no different than The Day Before devs, and they support him. They even look to him as someone who's speaking out against the real problems in the gaming industry. Gamers are good at recognizing what the problems are. They are not good at recognizing who is causing them, nor are they good at recognizing where the problems are. And for a really good example of not understanding where they are is how often gamers jump the gun on accusing a game of being pay to win when it's not. Think Helldivers 2, a game that's objectively not pay to win. Like, even if you pay money to, say, get, like, the war bond thing, I guess, it's technically not a power upgrade. It's more of a side grade when you get the war bond bundles. And even if you pay, you're just unlocking... You're getting a faster path to unlocking the ability to spend in-game currency on the War Pass or on the War Bond bundle. And even if you pay, you still have to have the medals, which you have to get through gameplay. But you also get the thing you pay, like the currency you use to unlock the War Bond through playing. So you're better off just playing the game and collecting the credits and then using those to unlock the War Bond, because by then you'll have enough medals to buy however much of the war bond you want to. Like, people, day one, for the first, 3 days until they realized how it worked, jumped on the ass of Helldivers 2, accusing it being pay to win. Players obviously defended it because they recognized how it actually worked and that it was not pay to win. It was more like an optional donation to continue supporting the game's development, but people still jumped the gun and accused it of that, because players understand, gamers understand, that pay-to-win bullshit is a problem in gaming, but they are not good at spotting it.
and that's how we even know. But what do you think Grummz has been doing other than working on this game, and why is it in the current state that it is right now? Well, that's where things start to get really funny. So you guys will probably recall from earlier that I mentioned that Grummz is quite possibly one of the biggest figureheads in this whole anti-woke/culture war sphere. He tends to spend a lot of his time, and by a lot of his time, I do mean a lot of his time, basically bitching about wokeness on in video games and various pieces of media on Twitter, because it's pretty much the only thing that's actually netting him any relevance.
But, like, actually, though, and I mean this with no irony whatsoever, when do you think the last time Grummz touched grass was? Like, I don't mean this in, like, the jokey sense, but literally physically skin contact with grass. It doesn't... I think it would have been I think it's been a while. Like, a surprisingly long time. No joke.
That, and of course just trying to make fun of people and failing spectacularly when the best that he can deliver on a video game is, well, what we've already seen beforehand. In fact, there's even more screenshots of, like, what apparently the pilots look like, and they're not too impressive either, let's put it that way. And in fact, if you are genuinely wondering if, like, this leaked gameplay is of course what it was as of recently, well, allow me to just quickly let you know that on the official Ember Discord server, there was quite literally a call to action, which I will just read it out for you guys right here, okay? Gatestriders, Grummz needs your support. The woke mob is spreading lies about Ember, calling it a scam, abandoned, buggy weekend Unreal Engine tutorial project, etc.
Okay. This is such an obvious phenomenon. Even, like, a lowbrow comedy like Family Guy has made fun of it. That you're able to slap, like, conservative blank on any product and sell it as, like, a Trump brand conservative alternative to anything and make easy money off of it. Grummz is the king of scamming people with a garbage nothing product and selling it to them with the only wrapping being, the MAGA taffy or whatever it was called. I think it was QAnon taffy is what they called it. QAnon taffy was the joke in the Family Guy episode. That was really good. QAnon taffy. Anyway. Yeah, it's like a very known phenomenon at this point. These idiots will just buy up anything or buy into anything that has Trump's name on it or claims to be anti-woke or pro-free speech. And so Grummz is like the king of that marketing strategy.
Time to prove them wrong. Grummz has put out a call for support in his Discord. Hello, everyone. People are asking how they can help. They can do so by having a recording session on Friday's CC, where I capture footage of our multiplayer. I'll use this and our recent updates to put together a new video on Ember. I'll send an email out as well. And of course, within the comments alone, you can pretty much just take a look that nobody was buying this in the first place. We have comments such as, at this point, it is an abandoned scam. We were waiting, 8 years, and there is nothing to show, and the man himself is a grifter and a scammer. And of course, other comments such as, I'll stop calling it a scam if I can get my money back. But the thing is that, well, this entire recording session ultimately led to even more of a reveal that this entire game was nothing more than a fucking scam. When that recording session ended up happening and people ended up revealing the current state of the game, well, it was...
So, here's what's so amazing. The conservative movement has been made so shameless by Trump because Trump is everything that the worst of the worst conservatives want in a leader, right? There was actually a quote recently from a Christian pastor I found surprisingly good. It was about Trump and the appropriation of Christianity by MAGA. The quote was, MAGA Republicans, MAGA Christians, have effectively replaced Jesus with Donald Trump. And I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm doing my best to word for word if I can. They've done this because Trump is everything that Jesus was not. Jesus was meek, Trump was a bully. Jesus was poor, and Trump is rich. Jesus lost, and Trump is obsessed with winning. He is everything that Jesus was not, and they have replaced Trump with Jesus as a representative of their ideas and their beliefs that they find more dignified, more representative of them than Jesus Christ. Because Jesus was a hippie, pretty much. Jesus in the Bible's described as a hippie. And it just doesn't mesh well with that being the Lord of the people who want to essentially exterminate and turn the military on, the quote-unquote enemy within that pretty much matches the description of Jesus far better than any of them do, yeah, they kind of have to replace Jesus with someone else, and it is just Trump. Did I misquote Calico Callie? I'm sorry. Don't, you know what I meant.
Was just more and more confirmation that the game itself was just a barely even, like, it was barely even, like, outside of it's not even an alpha state at this point. There's no sound effects for even the gun, and the footsteps seem to just kind of cut off at random. Like, this is the kind of game that apparently has 8 years and over $500,000 backing it. And no one knows what the $500,000 is actually being used for. In fact, the fact that nobody knows what the $500,000 is currently being used for has pretty much led to people trying to create petitions to basically get Grummz to actually show off the financial reports of this fucking game, because nobody goddamn knows what the money is being used for. $500,000. I have to keep...
I mean, he spent... Well, okay, so as I was saying before, I actually got cut off on this. Conservatives have really embraced, due to Trump becoming, like, their leader, their representative, they've really embraced the overt shamelessness. And because a lot of them have always, like, slyly and very snakily and slimily tried to profit off of selling lies to a gullible conservative audience that wants to have their opinions validated, because conservatives hate having their opinions challenged. To be a conservative, to get there, you're trained to consider... Like, part of the conservative worldview is that the left is bad. Like, a fundamental core tenet of the right's worldview is the left is an enemy you have to fight. There is no core tenet of the left's worldview that you have to fight against the right. It's like the left's worldview is much more about achieving positive change, like achieving things, like actual accomplishments, rather than like attacks on another group. While one of the right's primary foundations and pillars of advocacy, belief, their rhetoric, everything, every aspect of conservatism, one of the core tenets is being opposed to the left. And so because of that, conservatives, like as an audience, need their takes validated. They need their opinions validated. So they seek echo chambers where they'll hear exclusively validating takes about what they're mad about being a problem and what they care about being what other people care about. And they get this extremely filtered worldview. And meanwhile, they've always been getting scammed, but nowadays with the Trump era, it feels like they're so much more overt about it because everybody gets to live in their own alternate reality. Like, Trump's doing a crypto scam on his fans right now. His fans don't care. His supporters don't care. They're willing to look past Trump spitting in their face as long as he continues to validate what they stand for.
Keep on hammering that home. $500,000 has went into a game that, as of right now, or at least as of a couple months ago, is barely even outside of a tech demo. And considering that it was only as of, like, what, last month that I started to see, like, weird posts of, like, some sort of, like, 3D model artist called Cute Sexy Robots. I cannot believe that those are words that just left my mouth, ladies and gentlemen. Talking about how they were going to start working with Grummz on actually working on some of the 3D models for this game. Pretty safe to say that the game hasn't really left that current state that it is in right now over the past, like, 2 months. Not that I would have expected too much to be happening in 2 months, but again, considering how little has been done in, like, the past 8 years on this game, I don't anticipate him to suddenly shape up and suddenly create the game that everybody has been waiting for in the past, like, you know, in, like, 2 months that he was supposed to be working on for about, like, 8 years or so. In fact, it ended up getting so bad that one of his biggest meat writers, Melanie Mack, apparently tried to do some weird apologetics for why the game isn't even fucking finished, trying to claim stuff like MMOs always take a long time to make. Companies such as Riot Games even had to cancel theirs.
Yeah, there are a few cases in which a solo developer could make an MMO. But an MMO, 99% of the time, a modern MMO, the type of MMO that this game, Ember, claims to be, cannot be made by a single person. It's not a project that anyone would even, like with any gaming experience, especially in the MMO-like world, would even try to take up. Like, a single person cannot make a modern MMO. It's not possible. It is. I am not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I am saying it is literally not possible. Josh Strife Hayes has a few good videos about this exact topic. He's a cool guy. Yeah, he makes good stuff. Yeah, it's not possible. He's like even if he's not scamming, the project he's working on that he is asking for money for and no one's getting their money back for, even though they want it back, it's never going to happen. The project cannot be made. and it cannot live up to expectations, even if it does end up existing in some available form.
Delays are part of the business. Grummz has made games before. Obviously, he isn't just suddenly scamming now. Well, I hate to break it to you, but I don't think people are expecting the game to be finished, if that's what you're trying to, like, imply here. People just want there to be more than, well, this. I don't think it's anything to do with delays. In fact, if there were any delays on this game, I'm pretty sure it would be more widespread knowledge at this point, considering that from all I've looked up whenever it comes to Ember, I haven't heard any big announcements of, oh, the game is being delayed for X, Y, and Z year or anything along those lines. It just seems like for the past 8 years, Grummz has been doing somewhere between jack and shit on this game with the over $500,000 that he's been given in the 8 years of fucking time that he has supposedly had to work on it. You know, maybe Grummz, instead of using AI slop images as promotional art for this game, maybe instead of consuming AI slop about, like, woke...
Man, AI has been one of the biggest W's handed over on a silver platter for scammers and bullshit artists. Because the people who buy that shit are gullible when they're genuine. They want to buy it and don't care if they're wrong. And it gives them something that is clearly not real, but is also, like, a thing. They can make an image, right? Like, they're willing to make up an image of, like, a kid at, like, a gay pride parade, and all the people in the parade are naked or something. And it's like, oh my god, look at this degeneracy. And they generated it in AI. This has happened multiple times, by the way. And, like, there's no way that the tens of thousands of people who like those posts don't know that's an AI image. It's obviously an AI image, but they're liking and sharing it anyway because they want that image to count as a point for them. It's validation of their opinion. They don't care to question it, even when they can tell it's not real. I see this all the time.
In video games, or using AI slop as, like, fucking, like, you know, promotional shit for your game, or using 3-year-old promotional trailers for your game, or maybe even older than 3 years old at this point, considering the fact that the only other source of the videos that he once used to try and dispel the claims of AI or anything along those lines was an over 3-year-old promotional video. Maybe instead of doing any of that, maybe instead of bitching on Twitter, maybe instead you could actually, you know, fucking work on your game for once. Not like it's really going to help anymore at this point, considering the fact that the outcry for just how little work has been done on this game was so unbelievably bad that it actually caused Grummz to remember that he even had a Discord server in the first place and started purging everybody who was basically talking shit about the game, who was basically asking for a refund or stating that the game was unfinished or anything along those lines. And the only people that probably remain in that Discord server are either A, people who are too scared to speak out themselves, or B, an echo chamber.
Like, there's up until that point, there's a chance that this guy's just incompetent, but when he starts purging people asking for refunds for a project they've supported from his Discord for supporters of the project, he's just a scammer. Like, he was hoping they'd never ask for their money back, but now that they have, here's the part where he says, no.
But of course, on the topic of refunds, there's another fellow YouTuber that goes by the name of Sid Alpha, who apparently actually purchased a package for this game. Now keep in mind, even if you've purchased a package for this game, which I feel like I might as well mention right now, I forgot to mention this earlier, but this game apparently has, like, some sort of weird, like, system similar to that of, like, Star Citizen for whatever reason, where you have to, like, purchase a package in order for you to actually have, you know, a chance to get access at the game, which, funnily enough, very rarely anyone has actually gained access to the game other than, again, a few select people. And oddly enough, Sid Alpha decided to purchase a package to hopefully see behind the curtains and see how much progress has actually been done on the game itself, to which, well, he never really was given access, and at some point he actually tried to ask for a refund, to which it took Mark over 5 months, apparently. Obviously, the following DMs here are mainly talking about how apparently Mark is now playing victim right now and using his, like, children's health as, like, a defense for why he hasn't been working on the game at all, despite the fact that, well, we could talk about the fact that he's a deadbeat father who couldn't even pay child support for whatever reason. You know, apparently that 500K can go to a lot of things, like a fucking VTuber rig, but apparently can't even seem to go to taking care of his own family. That
he's using his supposedly sick children as an excuse for why there's been no progress in the game. And we have publicly available records that he has not paid child support because he is very clear. He is a very divorced man, if you cannot tell. I mean, he has, like, incel never married energy, never had a girlfriend energy, but I guess also believable is hardcore divorced and she took the fucking kids energy coming from Grummz. Yeah, that's believable.
he doesn't even have anymore. That's not even the only instance of Grummz apparently using his, like, family as, like, a way to, like, deflect really anything. Apparently, the current listed owner, the current CEO for, you know, the Ember Studio, isn't even Mark himself, or at least it isn't labeled as Mark being the owner.
Oh.
It's instead his mother, supposedly, that is listed as the CEO for this Crixa Labs LLC, meaning that for some unknown reason, he has his mother listed as the owner of Ember for whatever reason, despite the fact that it's very obvious that he's the...
Is he gonna throw his mom under the bus? Wait, is his mom dead? He's an older guy. Does he have his dad's mom's name attached to the CEO? So if the company ever gets investigated and there's some legal issues, like, well, hey, the CEO passed away. Is that his plan? What the fuck is he doing? Like, what?
The one that's actually running the show, and he probably has his mother listed, so that way any kind of, like, financial trouble ends up going to her instead of him for whatever reason. I mean, that's just a guess, but who the hell knows? But hey, I guess it's perfectly fine for him to bring up the fact that other people use, like, the passing of a family member as a way to justify why they start to, you know, create a game or anything along those lines. Well, at the exact same time, he's perfectly willing to use his own children as a shield to deflect any criticism from a fellow YouTuber. I think that just perfectly describes this level of irony. And of course, while I could talk about the fact that he is possibly a lolicon due to the fact that, well, he retweeted some art that for some reason he was tagged in. That's fucking disgusting if I'm gonna be completely...
Yeah, no, I think he might be! I think he might be, dude! I didn't hear about this! What? Yeah, no, I think he fucking might be! Actually, yeah. Yeah, I think he might fucking be. Oh my god, okay, bit of a palate cleanser after that. Guys, I have scented pine cones. They're very, very cinnamony. I forgot to mention this. I've had them sitting on my desk this whole time, making it smell all Christmassy and cinnamony in here. So, to purge that horror from your mind, at least we got scented pine cones. Oh yeah, those smell fucking good. I love scented pine cones. Alright, back to it.
Completely honest. I feel like at that point we would start to get way too off the rails, and it would just end up becoming more and more of a mess than it already is. So, of course, despite the fact that this man apparently is claiming to have been working on a game for the past god knows how long at this point, I tried to scroll back as far as I could on this man's Twitter account for really anything. Maybe even to try and find, like, when he started to really hammer in this weird culture war grift, if you will. But the thing is that I genuinely couldn't find it. I scrolled back like months at this point, because this man tweets than somebody who doesn't have a $500 scam that they should be working on. Like, it's just unbelievably fucking...
Twitter is his job. Like, the reason why all these right-wing grift accounts tweet, like, upwards of 500 to 1,000 times a day is because every tweet is money. Every tweet is income. So their job is to tweet. Like, the second they finish and post one tweet, they start writing the next one. Like, probably the same amount of time, if not more, than a 9 to 5. Because the more tweets they can post in a day, the more rage bait, the more lies, the more engagement, and the bigger the paycheck at the end of the month from Twitter. Or maybe it's like weekly. I don't know how often Twitter pays its users. I don't have Twitter Blue, but apparently it's not great, but it's also not bad. Like, it's decent CPM. Sometimes I wish I didn't have standards for myself. It would not be hard to be the best right-wing grifter. It would be pretty easy to break in with, like, any level of like, talent for entertainment and to just, like, validate conservative takes. It's a very easy path. That's why so many take it.
Insane as to just how often he ends up tweeting, and I still have yet to even reach the bottom. For all I know, he's been doing this shit probably since the entire grift ended up becoming a popular grift to, you know, bank off of, which I guess is around like mid-2023. For all I know, he's been doing it sooner. For all I know, he only started doing it this year. Regardless, it's still not much of an excuse as to why he has been working on this fucking game. Again, this has over $500,000 slammed into it from crowdfunding. People are now demanding refunds en masse, and even probably as as I'm recording this, there's probably more and more shady shit being dug up about this man that it's kind of one of the main reasons why it took me as long as it did for me to even get this video out. Originally, I thought that this rabbit hole was only going to be like a, you know, a 20-minute adventure in and out. I grab a few things, kind of talk about them, kind of bring up my own opinion, and then I'll be done with it. But no, it ended up turning into about 3 days of on and off, looking into so many different things that came out over the past week alone on just how bad Grummz and by extension this Ember project really is. This game is never going to be finished, in my personal opinion, and if it is, it's not going to be for any kind of good reason, and I don't expect it to be anywhere near as polished as you guys will probably think it is, especially given the fact that, again, he's supposed to have been working on this for, again, almost a decade, and for
like, I feel like Grummz stands as like the most ideal example of what the grift can achieve. How much people that buy into the anti-woke narrative are willing to look past. Because even those that think that like this anti-woke stuff has maybe gone a bit too far, maybe think that like the basic where it started was still fine. But it was always like this. The headlining people pushing these like ideas that wokeness is taking over gaming were always like this. They were always making these insanely clickbait titles and thumbnails, trying to get as many views as possible, spamming Elon's Twitter to get as much engagement and as many views as possible to farm off of rage. They've always reported, Grummz in particular, have always reported on rumors. Mind you, Gamergate a decade ago was supposed to be all about ethics and gaming journalism. Why is the sector of the internet that has like grown from the ashes of Gamergate, why are they the ones that now report on anything in the gaming space that is convenient to their narrative, even if the only evidence they have for it is a rumor from an anonymous poster on 4chan? Because it was never about ethics in video games journalism. But if you are someone who cared about those things, if you are someone who thinks that like rainbow capitalism is a bit cringe when it's like shoehorned into a game and it kind of maybe messes with the flow or the vibe of it a little bit, or it takes you out of it a little because you can kind of get like a meta idea of the intent behind something, I get that. That is definitely something you can notice. Rainbow capitalism is real. There is good reason, of course, why a lot of big companies try to market themselves to progressive people. It's because that's the more popular idea. Selling stuff to conservatives may be good to make money off of a very hyper niche group, but if you're trying to build a large, wide, and long-lasting market, you want to avoid appealing, or not necessarily avoid appealing to conservatives, but you want to avoid pushing away normal people, the majority, which have always been left-leaning.
Pretty much most of that time, he's been doing absolutely nothing other than fucking around in Unreal Engine and twiddling his...
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, Sergey. Very good, thank you for bringing this up. Grummz claims to have worked on StarCraft. His name's not anywhere in the credits of StarCraft 1 or 2, or Brood War. Mark Kern's not in those credits. He definitely worked at Blizzard and worked on WoW, but I think he's lying about working on StarCraft. I think just because he worked at Blizzard, he just listed the popular games from Blizzard during its peak, and hope no one looks too deep into it. Because granted, if you're a scammer, nah, Grummz couldn't be the breast milk thief, considering that was too recent. He wasn't at the company then. Grummz, like, I feel like what he's doing is a lot like the Nigerian prince scam. You guys know about that, right? Like the classic email scam. It's still done a lot today, and you may wonder why. Why haven't they changed it up? The reason is because if someone is willing to fall for that email in the year 2024, then they're going to buy the entire scam hook, line, and sinker. A scammer has to actually put effort into scamming any individual person. And so if they're going to start step one of scamming somebody, they want to make sure it's likely to actually result in a successful scamming venture. And the best way to do that is to root out all of the intelligent people that know what they're doing by making it an obvious scam from the get-go. Then the only people who buy into it are the people who have absolutely zero critical thinking, and they buy into it hard. Depressingly hard. Grummz has effectively replicated the exact same scam style.
dick in his hands. I'm not entirely even sure at this point. But overall, that's kind of where this entire story ends. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like. That's very well appreciated. Leave a comment down below what you thought about the video, what you want me to talk about next.
True.
And also subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more content such as this. Also, go ahead and follow me on Twitter, join the Discord server. I also have a Blue Sky if you want to follow me there. And special thanks to my amazing channel members, Grummz and MadFox94. There's not really much else I can say other than they're absolutely fantastic. If you guys made it to this point in the video, I don't know, comment Astral Infection. There we go.
Oh, shit, I should have commented Astral Infection. Damn, I should have commented that. I just commented Algo instead. Anyway, with that all said, yeah, this is a very good video. It does a pretty good job of breaking down the Grummz stuff. There's a bit more to it, but overall, it goes over the most important aspects of the situation, so I liked it. I think it was pretty solid. Go check out Moment of Sanity. Leave some support. There should be a link in the description, and this goes out as its own video. I really do hope that people start to realize what Grummz is, and he starts to drop supporters, but I wouldn't get my hopes up, sadly. The people who follow him are, like I said, the dumbest of the dumb. He filters for the types of people who will never realize that they've been, like, scammed and drop support for him. And even if they do, he doesn't need supporters to continue grifting. He makes rage bait posts. Even the people dunking on him and leaving hate replies are making him money. So he's just gotten a very effective cash farm going off of Twitter right now. And is probably one of the... Twitter... AI, Elon, crypto, all these things combined are genuinely, like, we've entered a golden age for scammers. Just a genuine golden age. And I think it's interesting that they all happen to politically agree with the right. I think that's just a little interesting. Maybe a little food for thought. Anyway, if you enjoyed this segment, thought it was entertaining, educational, or even enjoyable, then please consider leaving a like. That is at least a very free and very quick way that you can support the channel. Every single thumbs up, no matter what it is on, really helps the channel a lot. It really pushes it in the algorithm, whatever video or VOD or stream that you're watching. It forces YouTube in real time to recommend it to more people, as does commenting. If you can like and comment, oh my god, you are absolutely goated, and you mean a ton to me. Thank you so much for the comments and the likes. It really helps a ton. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video, because if you don't, they won't. Trust me. Trust me, they won't. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, consider following my social medias, linked down below in the description, including joining my fan Discord, which is, for those that don't know, the main hub of my community. It is totally free to join, and on top of that, at least once a week, I host a watch party, a call-in stream, or a gaming event. And on top of that, I announce all my new upload streams and watch parties and everything there. So if you have notifications on and you're in my Discord, then you shouldn't miss a single thing. And on top of that, finally, if you want to support me directly financially and help me afford to keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch, because I do have merch, through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a good one.